It's far out.
Like something out of a science fiction book.
What are you doing here?
Sorry.
Anyway,
Just wait until you see what this nuclear reactor can do.
Welcome, one and all. We are gathered together today to discuss Stargate SG-1.
Mr. Woolsey. General.
No, sorry. Star Trek Voyager.
Please state the nature of the medical emergency.
The Wonder Years?
If I see any smirking, this class is over. Do you read me, people?
No, of course we're here to actually discuss Quantum Leap, the 2022 revived or continued series, whatever you want to call it. Just don't call it a reboot because it's not. And obviously, there is a clear and present character that I want to spend some time discussing here before we actually get into the episode breakdown. But in case you haven't been playing along, we are on episode 11 of this new series entitled Leap, Die, Repeat. We had a very lengthy break at the end of last year. We came back for 2 episodes and then took 2 weeks off. So this wait has really been building this episode up to feel a little more than they probably hoped. Robert Picardo absolutely killed it. He kills everything he's in. Obviously, the man has a lot of sci-fi credentials, but he's also been in some things other than sci-fi. And I do want to discuss the Robert Picardo of it all before I get into the episode, because they went out of their way to make not only an homage to his prior characters, but possibly a connection between universes, although I think that is very slim because of the whole inter-network politics thing going on. But they went out of their way to, in my opinion, make the reveal at the end of last episode feel similar to the Stargate facility. I'm not saying that that was an intentional choice, it just looked and felt that way to me. In this episode, when we finally learn the character's name of Robert Picardo, it is the same last name as his character had within the Stargate franchise. Now, throwing all of that to the side, could these be the same character? Could they be trying to show us that Stargate and Quantum Leap take place in the same universe? I don't think that's the case, because the biggest issue here is a gap in time. Woolsey in the Stargate program was born, I believe, in the 1950s. This episode took place in 1962. Clearly, they're not the same person. One of them was a doctor, one of them was not, and they had a different first name. Could it be the case that the Woolsey we see in Quantum Leap here is actually, let's say, the father, or I don't even think it would be grandfather, father of the Woolsey in Stargate? No, I don't think that's the case either, because he mentioned that he doesn't have any children in this episode. It seems like a fun connection that they did intentionally. Take into account what they did on Sliders, when they also had a sneaky backdoor connection to Quantum Leap through Maggie Beckett and her father on an alternate Earth. And maybe they're just trying to do this sneaky web of interconnected sci-fi series. I'm clearly overthinking this, but let's actually get into the episode proper, because this was a fairly fun and interesting episode and a new twist onto the whole Quantum Leap program. So we have a lot of our present day stuff going on with our characters trying to figure out why Ben's leap is acting differently than usual. And these scenes were probably the weakest in my opinion. Obviously, we got to grow with some of the characters. We had a little more interaction with Janice and the team, and Ernie Hudson's magic finally kind of had more to do than just being the boss. He had a little bit of an emotional discussion, and he had a little bit of a reaction when our characters all thought Ben died. Because you see, during this leap, they thought he was killed when the nuclear reactor exploded back in 1962. What actually happened is each time the nuclear reactor exploded, it reset the leap, kind of shunting Ben's consciousness into the body of another member of the party that was in this nuclear reactor. And there was only a few of them. They were only the ones within the elevator. So we got to see Ben leap into each individual within the elevator. Well, I think this was a fun premise for the episode. Where I think the biggest missed opportunity came in is watching these different characters be played by Ben and then not be played by Ben. There was a very minimal amount of that, but we didn't really get to see Ben trying to act as these different characters. One of the upsides, and this is kind of a medium upside I would have to say, is the mystery aspect, trying to solve who sabotaged this, what's going on. There were actually little pieces and breadcrumbs that we could look to and try and solve this situation on our own, whereas the last time we had a mystery in this show, there was no way the audience could solve it. I still don't think there was enough, They didn't spend enough time with it, and frankly, I don't think there could have been enough time spent with it, having to juggle the present day and past storylines in a 44-minute episode. I personally think they probably should have broken this episode in particular into a two-parter. Maybe start the first part with him leaping into the past, spending a good half of it trying to figure out what's going on, then having him die and leap into the second person, thereby leaving the second episode to deal with him bouncing between all the various other characters to finally solve the plot. That's just my speculation on how it could have been done better. We did also get a couple of fun scenes between Ben and Addison. I'm enjoying the fact that they are dealing with their relationship issues, but it's not affecting the mission. A lot of modern day shows would take the problems in the relationship, put them first and foremost, to hell with the mission, to hell with the progress going on with the storyline, and just step off for 8 minutes to deal with that. Instead, they're actively discussing it during the mission if they have to, and just putting it to the side for later if they don't have to do it right now. We also got to see Janice do a little more interaction with our characters back in Quantum Leap headquarters. I don't know if she's going to be fully integrated into the team. There were some little hints that maybe someone is going to get the idea to go back in time and change things so that she does join the Quantum Leap program to begin with. But just the look on Magic's face when he kind of mentions this leads me to believe he may be behind some reasons that things go astray. Maybe he tries to make more big sweeping changes. Maybe when the oversight committee or whatever you want to call them comes back into the picture, he is the one to break protocol or to stray away from our team a little bit in order to rectify some past mistakes, and that might cause the fracture. I don't know if this is actually going anywhere, but it seems like he is interested in fixing past mistakes. This is the second time that he's mentioned to somebody that he wants to fix a past mistake, not to mention the entire primary reason for him creating this group in this program, to rescue Sam. So Magic is definitely dealing with this whole thought process of going backwards to fix the past. We also find out, and this is the cliffhanger we're left on, after this situation is resolved and Janice has helped them, she trusts them a little more. She is finally going to reveal the name of the person who originally told Ben he needed to leap in order to save Addison and do all that stuff. If they say, it's Sergeant Steve Johnson, somebody we've never met before, and then we have to subsequently learn who and why this person is important, that won't feel as earned as if she comes out and says it was actually Magic, but a different Magic, or somebody who leapt into Magic. Something like that. I don't know why I'm fixating on Magic. It could have been anybody, in my opinion. It might have been best if they leapt into Addison, because that could add a whole new twist to things. We also got to see Ben's memory is coming back, particularly in regards to movies. I don't know if this has some sort of impact or it was just a fun running joke throughout this episode, but his memory is definitely coming back to him and he's making more connections and he's putting more things together. So will he get a full restoration of that memory coming up? I'm not sure, but if he does, there's definitely bound to be some more information in there that is very, very vital to the Quantum Leap program right now. I just have a feeling that next episode is going to completely blow things wide open. They originally thought that Ben was stuck in a Groundhog Day time loop type situation, and that was their main theory for a good chunk of the episode. This led to two interesting points. Well, actually three, but two of them are tied to the same person. Janice had apparently written in the past a paper on how time loops work. She is the foremost expert on them, I suppose, in this universe. It was just kind of an interesting coincidence that the foremost expert on this situation was already in their custody in the building, and they had just brought her in like last episode. That seems a little coincidental. And then, it's not a time loop. What's happening is, I guess, Ziggy is moving Ben's consciousness from person to person to person in that localized time frame, but he can only do so once per person. So once he's leapt into somebody, failed that leap, he cannot then go back into that person, which means there is a finite number of leaps before he has exhausted all possibilities. This isn't, in my opinion, the first time we have seen this happen. I was thinking distinctly back to the Lee Harvey Oswald episode of the original Quantum Leap, where after he failed to stop the assassination, he was leapt back into the same situation in the body of one of the Secret Service agents that was nearby. So I'm wondering if this is a similar situation. Perhaps this is a safeguard built into the system. I'm thinking there might be more to Ziggy than we have come to know yet. The fact that Ziggy is not actually being voiced, also a little bit interesting. Maybe there's a reason for that. Maybe they have tamped down the power that Ziggy has so that Ziggy can't go full sentient on us. Again, I'm probably overthinking it because I've got all these sci-fi things bouncing around in my brain that might not apply to this, but there's definitely got to be something more going on, a little twist on things. The other interesting part here is that Janice is the expert on time loops. This is played off as extra coincidental, but then we learn it isn't a time loop. Was that just a red herring, or were we supposed to think it was a time loop, figure out it wasn't, so that the suspicion would come off of Janice a little bit, we would gain her trust a little bit, and then finally she would be able to do whatever she actually came in to do? So what are your thoughts on this episode? I don't think it's the best of the season. I do think that it's one of the most fun concepts we've had with Quantum Leap since it's returned. And I very much love these little twists and these turns, these different ways the leaps work. That's keeping my interest and adding a little bit of spice to this show. Leave all your thoughts below. Like, share, subscribe, do all those YouTube things. And until next time, keep on leaping.
Well, yes, the humans, the hillbillies of the galaxy.